his mom was sick. His mom had cancer. She couldn't eat, but she could have ice cream, and she loved Clementine's ice cream. And so he would bring her a couple times a week on her way to chemo, always to get ice cream. And so he's sitting there one day and he's typing me this like 2-page long message in Facebook Messenger. And he said, I just wanted to let you know, my mom died yesterday. And I'm sitting here because I'm so sad, but there's no other place I feel closer to my mom than sitting in your shop right now, eating her favorite ice cream. Right? And that's the stuff, right? That's the stuff that like, it doesn't matter that I'll never be wealthy or make as much money as I used to. It doesn't matter about all the other crap in life. Like in that moment, like it was changing his life and he was connected to his mother, and that it was my ice cream that put him there. Right. And so that's like the most rewarding thing. And that's why like, it's just the best. And I'm like, I'm so grateful. Like every day I'm grateful for the stories. I'm grateful for the messages. I'm grateful when, you know, you're out somewhere and you mention Clementine's and people's face light up and they're like, oh my God, I love that place. Or, oh my God, I go there with my mom all the time. Oh, you know, whatever that is. Or, hell yeah, me and my sisters, we go to ice cream for breakfast day every year there. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that like you can never put a price on, that you can never, like in those moments when it's hard and I just want to say, screw it. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I can't do anymore. A message will come in or somebody will say something. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Why.
That's my why.
That's my why.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back to the STL Bucket List Show. I am your host, Luke Farrell.
I'm your other host, Marissa Farrell.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
So,
Mr. and Mrs.
I know, I'm still getting used to the names, so it sounds so awkward when I say it.
The Mr. and Mrs. Guys, the STL Bucket List Show, our focus is to highlight the people, places, and events that make St. Louis unique. And it's all made possible, this show, by Half Coast Studios. Shout out to Matt on the ones and twos and the backs that produces the highest quality episode for us to share with all of St. Louis. So if you guys have a podcast or want to start a podcast, definitely let those guys at Half Coast Studios know. So we can get right into it with our very, very special guest today, the queen of ice cream in St. Louis.
That's very nice.
Tamara Keefe, thank you so much for making the time in your busy schedule to come see us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yes, we're so happy to have you here. I
Thank
like
you.
that. The queen of the ice cream.
I just came up with that on the spot.
Queen.
But
Good.
you've seen the title on my business card, right?
No.
I haven't seen it. What is it?
My official title for Clementine's is the Flavor Temptress.
Ooh,
I heard that.
That's
The
way better
Flavor
than
Temptress.
the queen of ice cream.
Well, the queen of ice cream is pretty phenomenal.
That's pretty
too.
good.
Yeah,
if I could
but-
fit that on my license plate, I totally would.
Yeah, is it only like
You'd
6
have to be
letters?
like, yeah, you're 6 small letters.
That's right.
If you could do emojis, that would be cool. Because
That
then you
would
could
be-
do the ice cream emoji.
Totally. With little
The
queen
lick.
emoji.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
That's cool.
So
Yes.
we like to get really into the story of you. So we want to hear a little bit about your upbringing, where you're from. I know I did a lot of research on your humble beginnings, so we want to hear all of that and just kind of who you are and however you say it.
Tamara.
Well, so Tamara Keefe. I was born in Colorado, and so my family's from Denver, really. But in about the 5th grade, we moved to Southern California. And so I was pretty much raised in Southern California at the beach. I was an Orange County girl through and through.
Mhm.
I was on the surf team in high school, very active, very like into the beach lifestyle. And kind of like grew up there with my family. I have a large family, a blended family. So I have 4 older brothers and it was my mom and my stepdad and grandparents. So big family, small house, you know, like you said, pretty humble beginnings. Large Irish Italian family. So super close, super loud, super fun. But just, you know, just good, simple people, really. And, you know, we just loved being together all the time. We didn't have a lot of friends, I would say, kind of growing up, because that's a lot of people to invite over to your house for
Yeah.
dinner, right? That's
true.
like a small army. So it doesn't happen very often. And my stepdad was in construction. And so we were kind of, just good old blue collar type family with a load of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so how I came to ice cream was really one Sunday after church. I heard other little kids talk about going for ice cream. And of course, I run over to my mom and I tug on her dress. I'm like, oh, do we get over ice cream? No, honey, I'm sorry. We can't. Okay. And literally every Sunday, I would run up to her that summer and ask her if we were going for ice cream. Well, as a kid, you're poor. You don't know you're poor, right? You just know that like other kids get to do something you don't get to do. But the persistent thing that I am, which has never changed, every weekend I just would go up to her whenever I'd hear them talk about it. And so finally one Sunday we were driving home after church and we stopped by a garage sale because that's where we got our clothes and our shoes, and that's what you do and that's all you can afford, right? And my mom found an old hand crank for $2 and she bought it, and we went home and she said, okay, go do your chores, change your clothes, come back to the kitchen. We're going to make ice cream. And so we started making ice cream as a family every Sunday after church. But it didn't really stay within the family. So whatever, that summer, one of those weekends, word got out that we were making our ice cream at home. And so now all of these other families who would go out for ice cream started asking if they could come to our house, right? And so, of course, we couldn't afford to pay for that for everybody. So one family would bring milk, another family would bring all these different families would bring different ingredients so that we could all come together and make it. So it was this amazing sense of community and people coming together, which now mind you, I we knew them in church. My family was beloved. My mom was always cooking for the old ladies. My dad was always fixing something on the church, right? So we were like a beloved family, but we really didn't hang out with other people. And because also we didn't have any money. So, if people were going out for pizza and a movie with their kids, like my family couldn't afford to do that. So, the day before Thanksgiving, we'd come home and we'd find groceries on our stoop, right, from people at church. So we were kind of like that family over there.
Yeah.
Well, that all changed. Ice cream changed all that. And, as a kid, you don't really understand like what's happening. All I knew is that my life had been changed because of this ice cream cone, right? And so this sense of community, I had friends I never had before. I got invited to parties. People came to our house. Like ice cream changed my life. And I think that's something that always stayed with me, because that you live this life with your family. And then all of a sudden, we went from the least most popular family in church to the most popular, but with the least money, so as a kid, you don't really understand the socioeconomic dynamics, right? You just wow, things are changing. And for me as a kid, it was all because of ice cream. And so that always stayed with me. And we made ice cream every Sunday after church all the way up until my mom passed away. And then I kind of kept the torch alive and kept it as my hobby and my passion throughout my whole life, in fact. And so it's something that always stayed with me. And I happened to get into corporate America, and I actually ended up in the food industry. So it was this very natural progression that,
Right.
I just always had I always made ice cream. I mean, my mom was the first one to make cool, weird flavors, because she would literally go to the fridge and make whatever we had in there. So
because the ingredients were limited.
ingredients were limited.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So we had extra tomatoes. I remember as a little kid, she made a tomato and feta ice cream, because those were ingredients that were going to go bad in the fridge. And we did not waste food
Make do.
in our house.
Mm-hmm.
You ate what was there until you had to scrape the foamy stuff off the top. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she made the first crazy tomato ice cream as a kid, and it was so cool, right? You're I mean, tomatoes in my ice cream, right? As a little kid, you're that's so
and
cool.
that's so special. You got to share that with your mom and got to continue her legacy.
Yeah.
Of that.
Wow.
If you guys didn't stop at that grocery store or not the grocery store, at the garage sale that one day, this wouldn't be here.
No, my life would totally
that one garage sale.
Different.
I love that.
And the impact of the community, and then just the doing it with your family itself and how that's grown into, again, Clementine's and what it is today is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, I was in California last year, I think. And I was like at some random restaurant and this woman walks up to me and she's like, Tamara? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, told me who she was. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen you since I was like 10 years old, right? I'm like, how did you even recognize me or whatever? And she's like, oh, so-and-so said something like you have this ice cream. And I remember coming to your house to make ice cream and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it was like powerful because I was like, wow, like someone else remembered that, right? Like as a kid, your whole world is your whole world, right? Your little myopic space of what you do day in and day out is your everything. But to the world, it's like nothing, right? It's just another day. So that was pretty cool to like run into somebody who like remembered that.
Yeah.
You know,
that same thing. Oh my goodness.
That's special. That's just special.
Because that's another person that, is impacted. Not like
Mhm.
that's your memory, but like, wow, we're children. And
Right,
this
right.
is something that you're coming up and telling me. So, wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that's special. So you mentioned the corporate world.
Mhm.
So that's what you were doing before and when did you start Clementine's?
I started Clementine's in 2014, in the spring of 2014 is when I incorporated and started building my kitchen and putting together my brand and my strategy and all that. But I opened my first shop May 7th. Actually, last week
Anniversary?
was our 7-year anniversary for our Lafayette Square shop.
Love that location.
St. Louis. Actually, thank you, Lafayette Square, because they really showed up for me in the first year and our first shop. But it was 7 years last week.
Wow.
Powerful.
And you mentioned being from California. So tell us how you got to St. Louis. And then you mentioned thank you, St. Louis. Like what does St. Louis mean to you? Because,
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything. So it's actually a funny story because I was working for DuPont at the time. This was in 2008. And they said, hey, there's this incredible opportunity for you in St. Louis. And I hate to admit this, but I was like, where is that again? They have this arch thing.
You're from the coast, so you're like the Midwest.
Coast, right? Like
Chicago? No, St. Louis.
And I was like, no thanks. No thanks. Okay. I'm just, go back. And they're like, no, really, there's this like amazing opportunity in our food ingredient division. And we think you'd be great and you can go build your team and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in going to St. Louis. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, like I lived at the beach and my slider opened and sand was there and ocean was there. Like
Wow.
I was living my best. I was living my best life.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like they said, go to New York or Chicago or Philadelphia. Right. And I was like, So a few more months go by and they bring it up again. And I'm like, yeah, no, not interested. And then one day I get a phone call from Ellen Kuhlman, who was our CEO at the time. And she says, hey, I'm going to be in town. You want to have lunch? And when the CEO asks if you want to have lunch, guess what you say? You said, absolutely. You tell me when and where. And so we were sitting there at lunch and we're chit-chatting, talking, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, I hear we have this amazing opportunity for you in St. Louis and you don't want to take it. And I said, yeah, I don't really know anybody there. It's the Midwest. They have snow and, not my thing. And she goes, well, I'm sure you would want some really great opportunities as your career progresses, right? Or something to that effect. And I said, well, of course. And she goes, then I suggest you take this, or something, like, oh, got it.
Yeah,
I get this whole purpose for the lunch.
Yeah.
And so, so I signed up for St. Louis very shortly thereafter. And literally I came kicking and screaming to St. Louis. I did not want to come to St. Louis. I was like, 2 years. She's like, yeah, just give us 2 years. I'm like, okay, 2 years. I'm going to go in. I'm going to build your team. I'm going to do this. And then you're going to.
And that's a long time to commit when you don't want to be somewhere. You're
when you're kind of climbing the corporate, to go in and really have impact, you got to be somewhere a couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's like, yep, we'll wherever you want to go after, we'll make that happen. And I was like, okay. And so coming, kicking and screaming to St. Louis was brutal for me. And all of my friends in Southern California said 6 months and you're not even going to work for them anymore. They're like, you're not going to, like, you'll be back. Like, there's no way you're going to make it. And I say within 6 months, I found my one true love, and that's the city of St. Louis, and I'll never leave. Like, it's just an amazing city. I remember being with the relocation specialist. They were taking me out to all these suburbs, right? Because I was a single woman, and, you know, they thought, oh, it's not safe, you know, to take her in the city and to check things out. And so I'm looking at all these like suburban areas
like West
that I'm
County,
like,
stuff
yeah, just places that somebody who doesn't know anyone, who's a single female, like, why would you want to live there, right? And so one day my realtor says, hey, you know, I have to run into the city and pick something up for my girlfriend. Do you mind riding along? And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. It's fine. She's like, there's this great little coffee shop. I'm going to drop you off, and then I'll be back in 20 minutes. I'm like, great. So we drive into the city, and we literally start driving down Park into Lafayette Square. And I was like, what is this neighborhood? It's so beautiful.
Pink and purple.
Like all the houses in the park. I'm like, this is amazing. She goes, oh, this is Lafayette Square. I said, well, how come you're not showing me neighborhoods like this? And she goes, oh, well, they, you know, not this. I'm like, no. This is exactly the kind of neighborhood that I want to live in. Yeah. I said, I want a more of an urban experience and blah, blah, blah. She says, well, okay, we'll look. And so she dropped me at the coffee shop in Lafayette Square. And I walk in, and there was like all these neighbors. Well, I soon come to find out were all these neighbors sitting around having coffee. And the owner of the coffee shop happened to be in there that day. And I come walking in, and people are like, hi, who are you? And I'm like, what do you care? Like, why are you asking me who I am, right? And I was like, oh, my name's Tamara. And they're like, oh, blah, blah. And they just started talking to me, right? Now, in Southern California, no one talks to you unless they want something from you, right? Like, or
that's when you got introduced to the Midwest.
Or like you walk into a coffee shop and they're like, hey, right? Like no one says like, hi, how are you? Who are you? And then the owner was just super engaging, and I started talking to these people. I was like, wow, like these people are so nice and welcoming. And they were talking, and I said, oh, I'm just out looking for houses. They wanted to know what I was doing and whatever. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, we have a neighborhood social on Thursday night. You should come. After the neighborhood meeting, there's social. We always meet at someone's house, and everybody brings something, and then we rotate, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, like, do people really do this? And so then, you know, I went, and I started looking in the neighborhood, and I started walking around, and literally I fell in love with Lafayette Square. And the people in Lafayette Square. And then I was like, okay, I have to live in this neighborhood. And I spent more days, like I went walking up and down streets, and people were working in their yard. And it was just this amazing experience of warmth and welcome. And I was like, wow, this was amazing. And then it just kind of built on this notion of Midwesterners are gloriously friendly people. And I had never experienced that before. And so all these things just started happening. And I moved into Lafayette Square. I moved into this great old house I started rehabbing. And, you know, coming from California, I had zero experience driving in the snow, right?
That's a challenge.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so literally it would snow, and my neighbors would call me and say, hey, I know you don't like to drive in the snow. We're going to the store. Can we get you something? And I'm like, who does that? Or I'd be traveling, and I'd get back, and they'd be like, hey, I'd walk up, and there'd, you know, from my first day back at work, and there'd be a crock pot full of chili and all the fixins and everything on my steps. And with a note, we noticed you were gone 10.5 days. Feel free to leave all the dirty dishes on the front porch. Like, whatever, we just thought, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, like these people, I fell in love with the people, and at first the residents and neighbors on Lafayette Square. And so just the city just started, like, for as much as I was pushing against coming to St. Louis, it just like warmed up and pulled me in and welcomed me. I mean, I couldn't believe I've lived all over the world, right? Our city, our tax dollars are at work in better than any city in this country, right? The cost of living is phenomenally cheap, right? Compared to the rest of the United States even. Look, the zoo is free. The science center is free. The museums are free. 1,500 seats to the Muni in perpetuity are free. Yes. Everyone has access to the arts here. It's totally incredible. You can buy a house here, or then you could buy a house for $40,000, $50,000. Now, maybe $100,000. It may not be huge, but you can still buy a starter house. Like, you can be a young couple, live on one income, buy a house, save for your retirement, go on vacation, have your kids in decent schools. That is like so rare in this country. that is like part of what makes St. Louis so magical. Like there's so many amazing things about the city. Like if you're into music, there's this huge like music scene. If you're into food, there's an incredible food scene, right? If you're into the arts, there's the arts. If you're into tech and startup, there's like this really robust, lively scene. And so literally like St. Louis was this amazing surprise to me that literally every day I fell in love with a little bit more and a little bit more. And like I said, I've lived all over the world. I traveled globally, and I had never been in a place where I literally fell in love more and more every day with the city and all of its neighborhoods and the people and the quality of life. I mean,
I'm so glad your realtor took you with you that day.
Yeah. I mean, really, like I sit on the Civic Pride Foundation board now. And for years after I left DuPont, even when they would have people in town recruiting, they would still invite me to go to dinner with them because I'm such a huge proponent of this city.
Yeah.
And it's such a great place to live and start a family and be young and be single or try your hat at a new business or whatever. Like the barriers to entry here are low enough where you don't have to risk everything and try. And people here are so supportive. Like they love their independent businesses, right? And so we're so supportive of each other. I mean, that's really there's this really special magical jewel about St. Louis that starts with the small business, like the people, the small local independent businesses. And I don't even like to say small businesses anymore, but like local businesses. Because there's this ecosystem here, right? That like you want to support each other and you recognize that our city just gets better with every independent bookstore you go into or restaurant or hardware store, right? Like that just makes our city that much of a better place to live in. And I'd never experienced that anywhere else before. And I never experienced neighborhoods like ours that are unique and different and walkable and that people have history in. And I never met people in Soha, in South City, right? Like I have friends that like there's 3 generations living on one street.
It's amazing.
Right?
They're so friendly. And when we moved to St. Louis, we had that same experience coming from the county. We moved to St. Louis and it inspired me to become an entrepreneur because I seen so many people in those small, like you said, I like how you say you don't like the word small. I'm going to stop using that as well because we're not like, and especially when family like, oh, well, how's your small business doing? Well, it's not really small anymore, So it's like, but I had that same experience. And when we walk around the neighborhood now, of course, there's stuff that the city needs to fix, and there always is in any big city.
Right.
But when we walk around the neighborhood, I get inspired to walk down Macklin and see people lined up outside of your door at like 10 o'clock at night on like a Wednesday night, which is just crazy. And then the Mac next door and Russell's, like amazing food patio, all these things. That street really inspired me, like Macklin Street. And that's just because that's where we landed at. That's where we found a place at right next to my sister who lives next door. It's all this cool stuff that goes into it. And that we lived 30 miles away, but it changes so much when you're in the city.
Yeah. The city is amazing. And all the neighborhoods, even from North City, you have Baden and Berkeley and Ferguson and Florissant. Like there's so many really cute, robust downtown, like little main street pockets.
I love downtown Ferguson. It's so
like
beautiful.
all over, right? And so it's like, to me, it's so unfortunate that people nationally only hear about the bad things. They don't hear about all the wonderful things. So I've kind of made it my mission in life, like to put St. Louis on the map, at least in the culinary world, at least in ice cream where I can affect it. And the whole world, nationally, culinary, everything, anyway, if you're into ice cream, St. Louis. And so that like, I'm really proud of because it's also like my duty in like giving back and like for all the people who've supported me. And when I first started out, before I even had a store, right? People knew I was making ice cream, and the neighbors in Lafayette Square started calling me, how can I get your ice cream? And we saw it on the menu, and all these local independent restaurants, these amazing restaurants invested in me and put me on their menus, right? And so people could find out about me, and people in different neighborhoods, before I even had my shop open, I remember that November, I started selling to restaurants, and then I got this idea because I needed to make revenue, right? But I've already built my little mini kitchen out of delivering ice cream pints anywhere in the city for free. And so literally it went like wildfire on social media because this was before Postmates and before Grubhub. Like there was no.
This was the end of 2013. This was November
2014. November.
2014. Okay.
And so people are like, wait, what? Like, wait, you know somebody who delivers ice cream to your house? What? And so literally that month we delivered over 1,500 pints around the city of St. Louis. And I was like, if you're I don't care. I drove to St. Charles. I was Wedsville. I like you name it. Like if you were going to order one pint, I was going to drive there and give it to you just for ordering that. Yeah. And then in December it was 1,700 pints, and in January is bigger. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get a store open because I'm like running
doing
ragged.
this? Like how many people were helping you?
It was me.
I'm like you and like what, one or two?
Me and Frank, my boyfriend, really at the time, he was like, yeah, this isn't my idea of dating. I'm like, I got like
this is not what I signed up for.
I got 25 more pints to deliver to St. Charles tonight. And he was like, okay, I guess this is our date.
Did you knock on the door and like talk to the people? And that was probably the best part. And just like seeing the people and making their night.
And the fact that you went to so many different, I'm just gonna keep saying the word pockets. I like that, pockets of St. Louis, and just even out in, like you said, St. Charles County. Like when you start opening stores, how many of those people are like, oh, I remember back when I was getting house deliveries.
Yeah. It was
face.
It was pretty cool right then, you know, and then people and neighbors, you know. I remember I approached a neighbor lady. She was having a big Christmas party. And I said, look, I would love to bring my ice cream to your party and I'll bring it for free if you let me put out an order sheet for people to order pints. And she was like, yes, that's a great idea. And literally word spread. And I think I had like 9 Christmas parties that I was doing and bringing all my pints. I'd show up with like 30 pints of ice cream and then put the order sheet out. And all these people like, I was making so much money doing these ice cream parties. It was unbelievable. But hey, that's how I survived, right? And people supported me, and that was really very cool. In fact, actually a year or two ago, someone called and said, do you still do those ice cream parties? And I'm like, I wish, but no.
In a different way.
Well,
we have catering. We have catering in a different way.
Right? By a little
the price went up. No, I'm just kidding.
You got to do that for like a fundraiser event, like offer like a one-time only old school ice cream party.
That would be a cool giveaway.
That would be
a cool giveaway.
Throwback idea.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So you had that transition. So you were talking about these parties and ice cream. So you had left your full-time job, or you were still working your full-time job, transitioning into this.
No, I left in 2014.
Okay.
I actually that's a good story.
Let's get it.
So I had a global role. I was running a $70 million business for a very large CPG company, traveling all over the world. I think like in 2012, I traveled 262 days that year. Like I was a road warrior, global organization, always gone. And I just got to this point where I had my dream career, my dream job. Like there was no higher job except for like CMO or CEO, right? Mm-hmm. And I was making more money than I ever thought I possibly would. I mean, more money in a year than my dad did in 10, right? I mean, it was crazy. And everyone thought like I had the life. And I was the most miserable person you could imagine. And so literally I was pushing that spring. I was pushing for my close girlfriends we were going out to Lake of the Ozarks. I'm like, I need a girls' weekend. We got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it. And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, no, we really need to do it. It's important. It's serious. And so they actually thought I was sick and that I was going to go there and tell them I was sick because I was like pushing that hard for it, which I was not sick. Thank goodness. But so we go out there that weekend and we're sitting on the dock having coffee and they're all like, okay, so, what's going on? And I just like broke down, opened the kimono, broke down, the ugly cry. And I just said, I am so miserable. I said, I dream of planes crashing and like, I'm so miserable and everyone thinks I have this like amazing life and I have all this money. And I'm 38 years old. I have no husband. I have no kids. I never see my friends. I never see my family. I live in this big house. And I have money in the bank and it's just sucks. And as I'm sitting there crying, like snot running down my, the ugly cry crap. Full-fledged, yeah. Right? My girlfriend turns to me and she goes, quit. And I'm like, what? She said, quit. I'm like, you don't quit corporate America, right? You don't just quit my job, right? Like not where I had gotten to. I'm like, my family would think I was totally nuts. And I'm like, what would I do? And my other girlfriend starts laughing and she's like, you're always complaining St. Louis doesn't have good ice cream. You're always bitching our neighborhood doesn't have an ice cream shop. And you love making ice cream more than anything. You've made it for my baby shower. You made it for this, for that. And she's like, why don't you open an ice cream shop? And I was like, interesting. And so we just like talked about it more. And I was like, okay. So that weekend we like wrote my business plan, put together my financials, and I resigned 2 weeks later. I said, fuck it. I'm going to take
I love that.
the biggest bet of my life and I'm going to bet on myself.
Because that was your passion. That's your calling. And like,
it was my passion. And I was more afraid not to do it than I was to do it.
Sometimes the bigger risk is not taking the risk because you would still be where you're at. You would still be unhappy. Yeah, sure, you would have a lot of money, but what are you going to spend it on? You're not even at home. You were at home for like 80 days. You're probably sleeping when you came home.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, I was really afraid not to do it. And I think I was just so miserable. I mean, it's like my friend Carrie said, she said, what's the worst thing that can happen? You fail. Okay. You're highly educated. You're running a big business. You can go get another job. And I was like, yeah, I guess I could. Maybe not at the same level. It would take me, time to get back there. She said, and I was like, you know what? You're right. And I was like, okay. And that was the crazy weekend. I decided to jump in and boy, I had no idea what I was in for. That's for sure.
You've had so many like small moments just in the conversation we've had so far of these little moments like the Lake of the Ozarks, the garage sale and all these things. And like, you should write a book. It's just amazing and inspiring. Okay. And I'm sure that's on the way too, but we'll see.
Going back to the garage sale really quick. Do you still have your ice?
No, I wish we did.
Like you got to put that in like, if you did, I'm like, that's got to be in your first store, like your baby, like
the Lafayette store.
No, I wish I still had that. Yeah. That got demolished.
I'm sure you put it to work.
Like all your stores have that vintage touch to it. I love it.
I was gonna ask, like, how would you describe the vibe of like your shops and like what? Because it's very homey. Like there's an aesthetic there. So like, what is that you're trying to?
Yeah, I mean, Clementine's is definitely. It has a very like melancholy vintage feel, but it's also like hip and edgy and cool as well. It's like the mix of the old and the new. That's why like older people love to come in and they're like, oh, this feels like an ice cream shop when I was a kid. And why young people come in and they're like, yeah, Clementine's is fucking dope. We love it.
Got the skulls. Got the skulls.
Got the, all
look
that
at the
kind
mirror
of stuff.
and it's like encouraging, like affirmation.
The rustic, empowering.
Yeah. And so it's kind of this combination. And Frank, my universe partner, is really the one who designs all of our stores. And I call my secret weapon. And there's a portrait of Clementine, the proverbial Clementine, in every shop as well. And so, there's like a whole... I'm a big Francophile, so I love everything French. And so all of our shops, you can definitely, like, it's a French feel. Like you come into, go into Damon or in Macklin, you're like, that's exactly what it feels like to sit in an ice cream shop on the sidewalks of Paris. Right. And so I just try to pull all the things that I love together into the experience and really create, we create an organoleptic experience in every shop.
I noticed that. And that's why we love going there.
I know.
And,
just love it.
And you're an innovator and you came from a tech industry. You've been in those rooms with people that are making big decisions. Mm-hmm. And then you were down making an ice cream shop. So how did you incorporate innovation into ice cream? Because there's a naughty and a nice.
Yeah.
You got it. So I stumbled into the naughty part of Clementine's. I was selling wholesale to restaurants and bars first. And it was actually Kevin Brennan from Brennan's, who was the first one he was my first or second wholesale customer. Mm-hmm. And he approached me and said, hey, can you put booze into the ice cream? I want to do like boozy ice cream. And I was like, yeah, you can't really do that. Right? Because alcohol depresses the freezing point in the ice cream. And he said, well, can you just try? Because no one in St. Louis is doing this. I'd really like to do this. And I said, well, I know the best product developers and chemists and food scientists in the country because I worked on the CPG side, but I also worked on the ingredient side of the food industry as well. And so I kind of went out to my network and I said, what would have to be true for this to happen? And so I had these amazing friends in working for all these food companies and in ingredients. And so one person said this, it was this collaborative effort of 8 or 9 of us who said, well, what about this? Or what if you could do here? What about this technology? What about that? And so it was really, having been exposed to ingredients, technologies, ways of producing, just that most people in the world don't have access to. And in ice cream, there's been zero innovation since Dippin' Dots, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same way they make it, the same machines, the same, right? Like
Flavors,
nothing,
all of it.
Yeah, nothing has changed. And so it was really about pushing that envelope and how could we make this happen? Like what would have to be true? And so we just press forward. We tried a million different things. And then all of a sudden, wait, this sort of worked. Okay, well, let's take this. And then what about this and bringing this together and this? And what about this process? And what about, this technology, all that. And so eventually we ended up with something and we're like, holy cow, I think we have something here. So immediately I called and met with my old intellectual property and patent attorney from my previous company. And I said, I think I've created this thing. And she was like, holy cow. She's like, Nestle and Unilever would kill for that. I said, I know. And I don't know how they didn't think about it first, but there are certain industries that really just are ignored. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I'm like, I think we need to file a patent on this. And she's like, I think you're right, but I'm going to go back and talk to my team and I'll get back to you. So we started the process to file a patent on our process, our trade secret process, which is now that. And then a week later, she called me. She's like, there's no way you can patent this. I'm like, why? She's like, because the moment you patent it, you open it up to the world and they see how you do it. They're just not allowed to do it the same way, but they can tweak something, change something, and then they can do it. She's like, just like Coke, you're better to keep it a trade secret process, split up your manufacturing and, however you do different things to where
nobody knows it.
Nobody knows.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how it is to this day.
That's how it is to this day. So it is our trade secret process for infusing alcohol into ice cream. That's our naughty ice cream. And so that was really how we started. That just kind of came to be. I mean, it took us 6-8 months to get there. But we got there and hence Clementine's Naughty and Nice Creamery was born.
What was the first flavor that you guys were able to create, the naughty?
Boozy banana rum. And that was actually the first flavor that we put into Brennan's as well.
Yeah,
for him.
We love Brennan's.
Oh yeah, I could see us sitting there drinking and then getting that as
or
a
cigar,
dessert.
a cigar with ice cream, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
And then the chocolate Cabernet. That's a popular.
That's my favorite one. That one and the champagne sorbet are my 2 favorites.
That new mango tequila that she just.
It's pretty good.
I know, and I get to try that one now. So
that one's pretty good too. But I like the cookies and cream.
Salted cookies cream.
Your process. I've been seeing it on social media. You guys are showing a little bit more behind the scenes about how you make it.
People love that.
I do. Yeah.
I do.
And, we just won the National Sophie Award, which is put on by the Fancy Future, the Specialty Food Association. Nationwide, we just won the gold for our maple bourbon with salted candy pecans. So we beat out some very stiff national competition.
Wow. Congratulations.
That's really cool.
Yay, St. Louis.
So St. Louis is very important to you. And, I've heard through the grapevine that you're expanding in St. Louis, so just tell us about why you're building in St. Louis and you're building in front of people, you want it to be a city effort,
Yeah. We talked about this earlier, right? The only way we're going to make a difference as a city and grow is if we do it ourselves. Right. And so I'm a big proponent of even the way we make our ice cream, right? We hire people who stand in front of a real machine to make the ice cream. And that's important to me because it's an effort, right? It's a collaborative effort of all the people who live here. It's our responsibility to make this city amazing. And so, so we're expanding, we're growing. We have 6 shops now, 3 more coming next year, hopefully.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And this year, my focus has been expanding our production so that we can actually go national and scale to 50 shops. So that's what I'm working on right now is building a new, amazing, beautiful kitchen that really is in the heart of St. Louis and where we need to invest and where we need to make a difference.
Put us on the map.
Hey, I'm working on it every day.
Yes.
It's
And
pretty cool.
You distribute nationally, right?
We do. We ship all over the country online through our e-commerce on the website. We ship thousands and thousands and thousands of packages all over.
Besides St. Louis, what's your hottest market right now? Just curious.
I was going to say, do you get a lot from
California?
Orange
Everywhere.
County or people supporting
we get
you?
a ton from New York. We get a ton from Chicago, Wisconsin, Florida, California. I mean, we ship everywhere. Wow. Believe it or not, we ship a ton of ice cream to Idaho. I'm like, somebody must be like a huge Clementine's evangelist there. Yeah. Because I'm like, we got all these orders in Idaho, right? They're all like kind of in the same
zip code area.
Couple of zip codes. I'm like, I don't know. I got to go back and look at the first person there.
There.
That's right. That's right.
That's cool. It's really cool seeing an order. And even I've done a little bit of e-commerce, and seeing an order from somewhere not in St. Louis when you're a St. Louis focused brand is so cool. And you're like, you want to just call them. I like want to, because like we're small. Like I want to just call you and say thank you and ask you why you did it. And that customer experience is important to you. I know your mission statement is high quality product, human experience. Explain your mission statement for us.
Well, it's really about making the best ice cream anywhere, which we do. And I'm not, yes, I'm biased, of course, but like, bless you.
Thank you.
We continue to win all these national awards, which tell us we have the best ice cream everywhere. So it really is elevating the ice cream experience and making the best ice cream anywhere, and having it be from St. Louis by people who live here and work here. And, you know, that's really the goal. And ultimately to be like the destination of choice in every city that we're in across America, which we will be. And starting next year, we'll be in Illinois. So that's very exciting.
That's one of your new spots. So.
Yes,
cool.
yes, hopefully, yeah.
Yay. And then earlier today, you said cow to cone. Is that what you said?
Yes, so we are. So we're a micro creamery. And so if you don't know what that means, I'll explain it. So think microbrewery for beer, but for ice cream, right? So you have to meet certain qualifications, right? So there are 5 qualifications that you have to be a micro creamery. One is you have to be small batch, meaning a real person stands in front of the ice cream machine and makes the ice cream. 2, everything in the ice cream has to be handcrafted. So if there's a pie, cake, or cookie, we make it, bake it, put it in it, right? We salt our own caramels, we candy our own pecans, we make our own hot fudge, we make our own salted caramel. Like we make everything that goes into the ice cream. 3rd, you have to be all natural. We are the only all natural ice cream maker in the state of Missouri and actually within 4 states, right? So no artificial colors, fillers, flavors, emulsifiers, or anything goes into our product. 4, you have to have less than 30% overrun. So overrun is a technical term. That's the amount of air that's like whipped into the ice cream. So to give you an example, when you go buy that pint of ice cream at the store or like any other ice cream shop, they put 100% overrun in it because that puts more air in it. So when you buy that pint of ice cream somewhere, you're actually only getting 50% ice cream and the rest is air. And that's why our pints compared to other people's pints are so heavy because we don't put all the air in it. So we have less than 30% air. So what you're getting is the real deal. Yeah. You're getting all ice cream. You're not just getting a bunch of air. And places put a lot of air in it because you can fill more containers, right? You've ever walked somewhere and had an ice cream cone and like instantly it melts? It's because it's full of air, right?
I've noticed that with your ice cream too. Like
this
each
is
bite
crazy. You just blew my mind on that.
Yeah. And so then last but not least, is around the butter fat. So in order to be a micro creamer, you have to have more than 16% butter fat. So butter fat is what makes the ice cream flavor like last on your tongue. And so most things in the grocery store or at random other ice cream places or whatever, they are usually around a 10 to 12% butter fat. We're 16 to 18%. That's why when you take a bite of our ice cream and you're like a minute later, you're like, you can still, like the flavor, it lingers, right? And it's so satiating. That's because of the butter fat. So the higher the butter fat, the higher the quality of the product, and the flavor really carries much further like on your tongue and in your mouth. And that's why you don't need to have a huge scoop of ice cream, because a higher butter fat ice cream, you can actually eat less and be just as satiated or more because of that.
Yeah, that's why I get one scoop because I'm like, this is a big scoop. You just enjoy every bite, and it is.
right? You're not
fulfilling. Yeah.
And that's probably why the reason your process is so intense is it reflects onto your prices. But I wouldn't say that your prices are too much higher than other people, but they deserve to be because of the process that goes in behind the scenes.
Yeah. So actually, if you look at us compared to every other like artisanal ice cream place in town, we're actually less expensive than some of them or right at par. From a price perspective, I think people perceive it because we're Clementines as being a lot more expensive. We're actually not. There's a lot of places in town that you go that will be more. And that's just my own personal values because I think ice cream needs to be accessible to everybody, right? It doesn't matter if you're the CFO or you're the janitor, like you should be able to afford to take your kids for ice cream. So even though after COVID and supply chain and all the crazy increases and stuff, you know, we've still not raised our prices in like almost 2 years.
That's amazing.
Right.
It's inspiring.
Which hopefully we don't have to do that soon, but
I know.
you know,
The world
is doing it. I mean,
is.
we have ingredients that have tripled like 300% in the past like year and a half.
Yep. Everything.
So it's kind of crazy, but
bound
you know,
to
so that's how
happen.
we make our ice cream. And, you know, because I came from the food industry, I understand supply chain. Right. And so we are very fortunate that we don't own our cows, but we have control. You know, I pick which dairy co-ops and which dairy farmers to use, right? Who treat their cows a certain way and who are, you know, all of our cows are grass fed, you know, grazed, RBST, hormone free. Like they play classical music to the baby cat. Like, you know, it sounds like hulu wulu, whatever, but it actually does make a difference in the quality of the dairy base that we get. And so, you know, when we say we're from cow to cone, we truly are from cow to cone because my cows, they're never fed corn, they're never fed soy, they're never fed animal byproduct, right? They can't certify themselves as organic because they're small dairies and they can't afford the organic certification, but they do all the right things. And that's what's important to me. And so I know that you're going to have the best ice cream cone you've ever had if I'm making sure that these cows are treated amazingly, right? And that they have pastures to roam on and they're not sitting in tight pens. And, you know, you'll see some stuff on social media this year. I actually went and spent a long weekend down at one of the dairy farms. I've never worked so hard in my life, but it was amazing to like physically walk we walk the cows up in the pasture twice. And it's just amazing how good old fashioned dairymen and women. And what was really cool, a little shout out here to the Millermore farm. If you're ever up in Illinois, Wisconsin, right there on the border, that's where we get our dairy from. But it is a totally unusual. It is an all woman run dairy farm. The girl who owns it and runs it, her grandfather is a legend in the dairy industry and started it, but she has all women who run this dairy farm, except for her grandfather who rides around on a tractor. He's really old, and, you know.
And that's Millermore.
Hi.
Yeah, Milrmor. You check her out on Facebook and Instagram. She's just a badass, but it's really cool to see, you know, and she employs all these women who are single mothers and have kids who, you know, work different shifts of the day so they can like
all have a break and take care of what's needed.
Like our values totally align. Like we met and we were like soul sisters, right? And I'm like, I'm so glad I don't do your job. And she's like, I'm so glad I don't do your job. And I'm like, that's why it works. That's why it works. But it's hard working on a dairy farm. Like I am so glad I make the ice cream. That's all I can say.
That's what I wanted to kind of lead into. So you mentioned the process, and just like a chef is going to travel to Italy or to these places like New York City and test and taste and see how people react, because it's all about the customer's journey. And I'm in marketing and you were in marketing, is like, why does this customer walk up to this coffee shop and spend $6 on a latte here, you know, instead of going to McCafe? You know, what's the difference of that customer's journey? So did you travel? I mean, you traveled a lot, so you tried a lot of different ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, ice cream has been my hobby and passion my whole life, right? So it stayed with me. You know, some people golf, some people scrapbook, some people do whatever. I've always made ice cream, right? Since my mom passed away when I was 21, that became mine. Transitioned from her to me. And so my whole life I've been eating ice cream and gelato, you name it, everywhere I go in the world, in Asia and the Middle East, right? Like ice cream is this beautiful product. And the thing that I love about it is that it's it's like classless, right? Like, again, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Everyone can take their kids. Everyone can have an ice cream experience. And to see that in Africa and Asia, like ice cream has this incredibly pivotal role in people's lives, and it doesn't matter where you're from. But it's also like the food product that is the most emotional food product that there is for people.
I was going to say the comfort that it brings, plus the joy to go and like when we walk and go get it, that's joyful. Like we're just so happy to have gone on the walk, get a little sweet treat, and like we're just happy. Or like I had a crappy week and let's go treat ourselves to some ice cream. Like it's a feeling, I guess, is, you know, as corny as that sounds, it really does. It mirrors how you feel. So
after a sports event, like I remember growing up, like after a baseball game, whether we won or lost, we would get ice cream.
You did. Because remember we went to my sister's track meet or something. You're like, we're going to take her for ice cream. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
You're doing that. Okay.
It's really something that's so ingrained in people's lives. That's like so special, and it's everywhere. Right? It's
timeless.
Yeah, totally. And it's for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because it goes back to like your story at the beginning of just that feeling. So it's really amazing to see like you carry that with you and what it is that you're doing now. I think that's amazing.
And let's face it, I have the best job in the whole world. Right? I can make ice cream and I make people happy every day. You know, we talk a lot about the magic, we call it the magic threshold. You know, that you step over when you walk into the store. You will physically see people outside walking into Clementine's, and they're like hunched and they're like, life is on their shoulders and I got to get this and I got to get dinner at like, they're just like this. They walk in and literally they step over the threshold and they're like, their shoulders relax. They open up. They get this big smile on their face. They smell the waffle cones.
Yeah.
And they know in that moment that their life is going to be instantly better. And so you have happy customers and you're making their lives better and easier and happier and funnier. And whether they're with friends or family or even by themselves, right? People come in for that respite, right? To say, I need 10 minutes of joy in my life. I'm going to Clementine's. And that there is nothing more rewarding than to have that happen. I mean, and I get messages on Facebook and Instagram all the time about how we've impacted someone's life or touched them. My favorite story, I always get emotional when I talk about this story, but this guy, Brian, I won't say his last name on here and I don't want to embarrass him, but and I don't know if he's embarrassed. Anyway, his mom was sick. His mom had cancer. She couldn't eat. But she could have ice cream, and she loved Clementine's ice cream. And so he would bring her a couple times a week on her way to chemo, always to get ice cream. And so he's sitting there one day and he's typing me this like 2-page long message in Facebook Messenger. And he said, I just wanted to let you know, my mom died yesterday. And I'm sitting here because I'm so sad, but there's no other place I feel closer to my mom than sitting in your shop right now, eating her favorite ice cream. Right? And that's the stuff, right? That's the stuff that like, it doesn't matter that I'll never be wealthy or make as much money as I used to. It doesn't matter about all the other crap in life. Like in that moment, like it was changing his life and he was connected to his mother, and that was my ice cream that put him there. Right. And so that's like the most rewarding thing. And that's why like, it's just the best. And I'm like, I'm so grateful. Like every day I'm grateful for the stories. I'm grateful for the messages. I'm grateful when, you know, you're out somewhere and you mention Clementine's and people's face light up and they're like, oh my God, I love that place. Or, oh my God, I go there with my mom all the time. Oh, you know, whatever that is. Or, hell yeah, me and my sisters, we go to ice cream for breakfast day every year there. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that like you can never put a price on, that you can never, like in those moments when it's hard and I just want to say, screw it, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I can't do anymore. A message will come in or somebody will say something and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Why. That's my why.
That's my why.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. That was
sorry.
No,
I love
got me.
that.
I haven't told that story in a long time.
We all need a good cry, and I think that just is a good, testament to exactly your why. And I think that's special, and that's really sweet of Brian. And now you have someone, I'm sure that's a relationship too. Like now you have customer relationships, and just sweet memories.
Well, and I hope people know, like, coming from super humble beginnings and then growing this great career and then like jumping off and doing this crazy thing called Clementine's, and the fact that it's working and we're growing, and like that does not befall me any day. Like I wake up every day and I'm so grateful to every customer, to every person who's supportive, to every person who wants to have us on, or everyone who talks about Clementine's, because it's a collaborative effort. Like with us in the city, I am like so blessed to get to do what I do every single day, right? There are a lot worse jobs I could have, right? What do they say? When you love what you do, you never work another day in your life.
Yep.
That's true.
And you gotta like work to create the life that you want to lead, right?
And now more than ever, we can create that in women entrepreneurs. And what does being a woman entrepreneur mean to you? Because I think that I've heard stories of you mentoring other women in the city. And even before we got on, you're talking about these other women. Like I spoke on Jillian, you're like, you should have her. And I'm like, I already did. But you're like, yes, let's go. But like you want to support other women. And we notice that now more than ever, especially
Lisa
in St.
from Big Heart Tea. You got to get her on.
Okay.
I've seen them. I've been watching them. They were on Shark Tank. Or I don't know. No, they weren't. I was thinking it was somebody else. But yeah, tell us about supporting women and how impactful that was for you, and mentoring and being a mentee.
It's interesting because you kind of, at least in my corporate career, I didn't have any good female mentors. It was hard. Like those of us who got there, we clawed and worked twice as hard and twice as long. And like, it was a rough road. And so I feel like I'm so lucky to be where I'm at right now. And that like rising tides raises all ships. We have to help each other, right? Like as women, because it's still like, we haven't come that far, right? It's still really hard out there, right? And people still want, I can't tell you how many meetings, even with bankers I've met, and they're like, oh, is your husband coming? And I'm like, screw you, asshole.
On my own.
Right? Like
I have a brain.
This thing, Clementine's, I built this.
Yeah.
Right? Like me. So you have to help each other. And it's almost like, how can you not? Right? Because really, I do believe that rising tides raises all ships. And if we're all successful, if you're successful, and if I'm successful, then we're all successful. And guess what? If you're successful, I'm successful, and she's successful, St. Louis is successful, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to lift people up who don't have opportunities, right? Or whose lives are so, different than ours, or haven't had the opportunity. Like that's about doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I really do. I do believe that. So I do invest a lot in mentees, and I'm grateful. I have some like amazing female mentors in St. Louis. Maxine Clark is one of my mentors, and her old CFO. So I've got these group of women, and I'm in this really cool, amazing group in St. Louis called EO. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It stands for Entrepreneurs Organization. And it's a bunch of entrepreneur CEOs in St. Louis who started their own companies, who've built them. And we have these peer-to-peer mentoring groups where you get in. And when I was starting my business, they have this amazing accelerator program for like tiny businesses when you're started. And I came up through that. And I had an accountability coach from somebody who had a really big business who said, I am totally invested in getting your business over $1 million. And what do we need to do to mentor you and support you and get you over that number? So
you should look into that.
Yeah.
He's been looking for a mentor. So
yeah. So it's leveraging all those things to help us learn and grow. And I'm really fortunate that I've had some amazing mentors in this ice cream journey. And now I get to give back and pay it forward.
So I want to address some fun events that you guys do. Like ice cream for breakfast day.
Yay!
Oh my
breakfast
gosh.
At Clementine's.
The
now.
best. Breakfast at Clementine. So tell us about that. Like just the fun of, because you create new flavors for everyone to try for breakfast. And then just the theme and just like how fun and how you get to market that whole event. Because people are lined up in the cold, you guys, for this event. So if you haven't been, next, what is it, March, February?
It's always in February.
Okay. Yeah, it's a cold one, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So Ice Cream for Breakfast Day was actually started by a woman, I think in like 1980 or 82 in upstate New York, who was looking for something fun to do with her kids on a yucky wintry day. And just to get them out of the house, something to do, right? Because it's Christmas holidays and it's a long time off before spring break. And she came up with this idea, like, let's go have ice cream for breakfast. And it kind of was this thing that stuck and grew and grew and grew. And so ice cream shops all over the country actually celebrate this. Some people do it on a smaller scale. Some people like us do it on a really, really grand, large scale. So it's something that's been done for 20 some years. And in fact, President Ronald Reagan actually ended up, from the start of this event, ended up making National Ice Cream Day, which is in July, was started from this Ice Cream for Breakfast Day. So he actually made it a national day. So Ice Cream for Breakfast Day is cool. So you come out, everyone, the whole family, everyone comes in your pajamas, right? And so you get dressed up and we have lots of activities. We give away free mugs and t-shirts and different gifts and different things. And every year we kind of did a different theme for it. And we always like have people lined up because the first 50 people at every store gets a commemorative mug, which are like highly, highly sought after now.
They're so cute.
And so it was just this fun thing. And I love that movie Breakfast at Tiffany's. And, you know, Tiffany & Company is my favorite store,
So
as
good.
is most young women our age.
It's
And
Tiffany's.
That's right. It's Tiffany. And so I just got this idea last year with some of my marketing friends around, it was the 50th anniversary for the movie. And there's this great scene in the movie in the beginning where she's standing in front of Tiffany's & Company's and she's actually eating a pastry. But when she filmed the movie, she asked the director, because she didn't, Audrey Hepburn, she never ate carbs and didn't like pastries. She goes, can I hold an ice cream cone? Because I love ice cream. And the director said no, so it ended up being a pastry. So famous little fun fact about that movie. Yes. But anyway, so we got the idea of why don't we do a breakfast at Clementine's instead? And so we have these big glass windows that we've created that people can stand in front of and eat their ice cream cone and like mimic the scene from the movie. And everyone dresses up like Audrey Hepburn and all these like black pajamas and pearls. Yeah, we call it PJs and pearls and tiaras and the sunglasses. And so we give prizes. We actually collaborated with Tiffany & Company. And so we buy tons of Tiffany & Company jewelry and they give us stuff. And so at every store, we hand out randomly Tiffany & Company jewelry and gift cards and for the best costumes. And it's just like this huge, it gets bigger and bigger every year. And I'm amazed every year. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going into Tiffany's spending this much money like on this stuff, right? But like people love it, and it's become such a tradition for people. Now we have to do it forever. But that's okay because I come, you know, I'm in all the stores and I wear my black satin pajamas and everything. And it's, you should tell your story about it.
Oh, it was it was great. What I woke up, it was like Christmas Day. It was like Christmas morning. I'm like, all right, Luke.
That out.
I did. No, I think I did. I slept in my silk PJs and then I woke up and did my hair in the bun. And then had like my sleep mask on and I'm like, all right, are you ready? And Luke's like, we're going, it just snowed. I'm like, oh, we're going. I'm getting a Tiffany's something, gift card, jewelry, whatever. I just want to win something. And I also just like want ice cream. I'm like, look at all the flavors. Like, we have to go. He's like, all right. So Luke's like bundled up and I'm wearing my black satin pajamas, which if you're going, you got to wear the long sleeve ones. Don't be a lunatic like me and wear short sleeve, because people were looking at me. They're like, love the dedication. I'm like my teeth are chattering. I'm like, yep. So we waited in line and like, I don't know. I was probably like, I was early. Like I can't, what time did it start, the event?
So we open at 9, but people line up in the morning from 6 o'clock in the morning.
We were there at 8:15.
We're probably like 15th in line.
I want to say it was 10th. Like probably, like between,
because I was parking the car for a while.
Yeah, he was really trying to find a parking spot, even though there was one, But anyway, so I was in line, everyone, and it's just cute because you get to talking with everybody and we're all like, just so excited. And so I took a picture in front of the big mirror that I'm like, you gotta, take my photo. And Then I got in there and they had pancake art. They had pancake artists, which is
Dan
so
the Pancake Man is awesome.
Oh, that was so cool. I mean, they can make anything into a pancake. They did. They made that STL bucket list logo, which was super cute. And then I got a diamond ring because we were engaged at the time. I'm like, I want a ring. But yeah, I picked out my ice cream and then I got my little goodie bag and they were like, you look so cute. I'm like, thank you. I was so excited.
And you got a gift card, didn't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I got my prize.
Yeah, you won the prize.
We sat down and then we were actually sitting and it was busy. So like we got to sit across from like a complete stranger in our neighborhood because we walked to the Macklin location. And I didn't even get to tell you this, but like she was sitting with it was like a singular girl.
It was a 4-top and it was us two and then
she was sitting with a guy who they were strangers and we thought that they were like, family or something. And so then we're all just talking and like, again, just like
building community.
And like, we just sat and talked forever. And it was like, all right, well, have a great day. And it was just like, we left. I'm like, I got to dress up like Tiffany's, which is my like Audrey Hepburn. That's the best ever. We got ice cream for breakfast, and then I got a prize and we got to talk to someone like completely new. And it was just a cool, good day. It was just a good day. Yeah, it was a happy day.
And that's why everyone wants to do it every year.
And
it's
that's
super
why
fun.
I will be dragging my best friends to go next year. And, they got to get ready to wake up at the crack because
they can go with you next year. They'll go with you.
Yeah. Looks like I did it once. I'm good. Check. I'll bring someone
He's like,
else.
we're married.
Yeah.
We're married.
I don't
Times
have
have
to try
changed.
that
I wasn't
hard.
working as hard. I was working pretty hard then, for sure. You got
He's
to.
like, I really love you. But there was like other guys and they're like, Luke's like giving, you guys are giving each other the look.
It's like when you're at the mall and you're sitting at the key, like at the thing. Like,
It shows
babe,
how
you
much
good?
I love her. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you guys are big on events. Obviously Pride Month.
Yeah.
That's a huge month for you guys with
We're
the cones.
so excited. We do the rainbow cones and we make a huge donation every year to a local nonprofit that supports the LGBTQ, et cetera, community. So we're really excited this year. Yeah. So we love doing our Pride cones.
Yeah.
Everybody comes out for it and they show up. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best thing about Clementine's is everybody has a way to participate, to just show their support. And so our Pride cones are a fun way to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And over the last 8 years, you've built this empire of ice cream, but you couldn't do it without a team. We talked about your team, and you have 100 kids, or almost 100 kids.
They're not all kids, but a lot of them are. Yeah. So we have 98 employees right now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
What does that mean to you? I mean, having such a large team, like
it's scary and frightening, and it's a responsibility, right? Because you have to, like I said earlier, like I have to make sure that I'm in such a good place because I'm making decisions that affect all of these livelihoods, right? And, I may have 98 employees, but they all have spouses and sisters and brothers and kids. And so our effect in the communities is huge. So, I always say when you're buying that ice cream cone at Clementine's, you're not really just supporting me, you're supporting, the 100 families who work for us too, in all of our neighborhoods and pockets of joy.
All the way down from a kid working in the summer to somebody supporting.
Yeah. And it's so cool because we're getting ready for summer and all the kids are coming back. And literally we have kids who started with us when they were 15 and now are in college, and some are getting ready to like get out of college and they're like, hey, we want to come back and work for you full time. And so, we have these long-term employees who come back all these kids who come in the summer year after year after year after year. And yeah, they like make great money, but they do it because Clementine's is fun and it's awesome.
And it's more than ice cream.
Yeah,
you're building something more than ice cream, like you said, with the experience.
I say that all the time. It's not just ice cream, it's purpose. And so I think people know when they support us and they come in or they, show up for work, they're part of building something great and they're part of like the St. Louis community. Like we are entrenched in the community and we give back and we kind of relish that we're part of the St. Louis foundation.
And I see the same people a lot when I'm up there. So like it is a job, like not your typical summer job, like a lifeguard where you quit after one summer, you're like, that was horrible. But like these kids, the same ones are there. They're so young, but they're so good. And like, I can't wait for samples to come back. Breaking news, samples are coming back.
They are. They're coming back.
Read all about it. it.
So now you can bring your curious, basic family members that only like vanilla or chocolate, and they can try some things.
That's right. They can try up to 2 or 3. I think we're putting a limit on the number of samples to make sure that the line continues to go through.
Can't go through all of them, but
Right.
take your
Although
3.
people want to.
Yeah.
But don't do that. The people behind you, they're not going to like that.
What's your favorite flavor? Like what?
Oh, gosh. That's like picking your favorite kid.
I know.
You know,
right now. Let's say right now. Because
my new flavors are like my favorite ones, but still my Madagascar vanilla is what I eat like almost daily.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's so amazing. It's so good. Like we use a local company actually here in Missouri that brings in all of our Madagascar vanilla just for us in our blend. Lockhead Vanilla, they're out in Fenton, but they're like a local family. So we support them and we use their vanilla. And so like we make the best vanilla ice cream anywhere. It's so amazing. We use this double fold vanilla that's just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
What's your favorite, Luke?
Like I said, the cookies and cream salted caramel.
Yes.
That one's just like the actual chunks that are in there are now that I know they're handmade, like everything, like you said, the pies and all that. So like I know that that's a job for somebody. So each bite is.
Do you know we have one person full time, literally 5 in the summer, 6 days a week. All they do is cut up gooey butter cakes, and we have a whole pastry team that 2 or 3 people. All they do all day, every day, is make gooey butter cakes.
Wow.
They're like, hey, hand off.
Yeah, hand off, and like literally
Okay.
somebody sits there. Like that's all they do all day is cut up those big, awesome chunks
Yeah.
for our gooey butter cake ice cream.
That's that's like you said, like each
That's
of
where
these
it's at,
things
man.
It's like all
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That's where
Chunks
it's
of
at.
deliciousness.
Yeah, that's
I like that
that's
job.
huge. So this is a St. Louis bucket list show. We built St. Louis bucket list 3 years ago to support small businesses. So
Local businesses.
local businesses.
Yeah,
You
we're
call me-
switching it up. Yeah,
That's
get
good.
called out.
I know. No, but it's
it
to
up.
support local, because to support families. So I want to know what your idea of an STL bucket list is. Like, tell us a few spots that you like to eat at, drink at. Just a couple spots you like to do.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
If you're gonna bring in someone from to visit, like where are you taking them?
Okay, so probably my favorite restaurant right now is Louis. Well, has been is Louis on
Everybody.
Demon.
Everybody.
Matt McGuire
Everybody
is a
says Louis.
magic chef. Yeah, love Louis. We love to go downtown to the Four Seasons for cocktails and a view, right? Like when people come in town. I definitely take them to Lafayette Square. That's like my neighborhood. But like there's so many like amazing places. Definitely Forest Park, Panorama at the Art Museum.
Mhm.
That's a great like date place. Frank and I love to go there like on the weekends for dates. Gosh, there's like so many places. It kind of depends on like what neighborhood. Now that we're in so many neighborhoods, I've gotten to know so many neighborhoods. So like, I don't know, my favorite like French dip sandwich is at BC's Cafe in Lake St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
But then if I'm like out in West County, like my favorite, like, I don't know, I just have French dip on the mind, whatever. But like Annie Gunn's has like the best French dip sandwich, like in West County. And so it kind of just depends. Or my other favorite restaurant right now is a Car in Clayton. That's
Maggie
Bernie
was just
Lee's
there.
restaurant. That man like is a phenomenal, like, yeah,
Car
you
was
should
a
have,
good
yeah, he's incredible. So talented, came to this country, didn't speak English, and has built like this amazing life and this beautiful, beautiful restaurant and food in Clayton. So I love a Car. You know, I really miss Zoe Robinson's restaurants. Like Bar La Frere was like my favorite spot to hang out and have
And that's
champagne.
coming
on
back.
our list a long time.
But that's coming back now under
Yeah,
different
so Michael
owners.
and Tara
Yeah.
Galena bought it. So I don't know what it's going to be exactly.
But at least
now.
the space is just
the space is coming back. Yeah, there's so many. Ben Prema does an awesome job. Frank and I's first date was at Olio.
Mhm.
So we always go back there around our anniversary.
Do the tasting menu.
Yeah, we just love it.
Treat yourself.
So
There's so much good food. Like you said, St. Louis is a food town, but St. Louis is an arts town. It's not just a sports town. When people think of St. Louis, like the Cardinals, that's what people travel into the city for. But more people travel into St. Louis for art, Muni, Fox, jazz, like all blues and jazz bars, like all these places, like more people come through St. Louis for that.
Yeah, Jazz
the
at the
Cardinals.
Bistro is amazing, right? City Museum, like there's so many amazing things to do in this. Like there's a huge bucket list. When people come to town, they're like absolutely amazed because I put them in the car from like early morning. I'm like, this is where we're going for coffee. This is where we're going for pastry. This is where we're going for a mid-morning snack. This is where we're going for lunch. And they're like, I just like ate 10,000 calories. Yeah. But there's so much just, and I love the boats at Forest Park and
Oh, I can't wait. We might do that on Monday for Memorial Day.
well, and the new park, I forget what it's called. The new like hardscape park at Forest Park. What's that called? The Naturescape.
Oh yeah.
By the zoo. The Albrecht family donated the money and put that in there, and it's so beautiful. It has these water features, and
I haven't seen it.
It's a great place to go have a picnic. It's like a date day.
We got engaged on Art Hill. Like Art Hill's special for us because of a picnic, and we just love the idea.
We love going.
We got a picnic
on
basket for our wedding, and I'm so excited to use it because it's red
a
and white.
big
It opens
one.
up with forks.
It's got plates and
got plates
wine
and
glasses.
forks.
Like
Oh my
we're
gosh.
big picnic like snobs. Like it's just like the best.
Totally.
Like, we always go to like Mom's Deli and we'll like get a sandwich and then go. We'll get our wine.
Tower Grove's by our house, but
Mm-hmm.
Missouri Botanical does their Wednesday Whitaker Festival, which is live music, which is coming back finally. The zoo. I mean, all these amazing
many
places for
things.
free. I like when you touched on earlier about being a young couple, us being 26, being able to do all these things and eat at all these places and be able to still afford to pay rent or pay our mortgage at the same time is important because
Totally.
it's not like we're out here balling out.
I know people are like, you guys do. I'm like, yeah, we just find like the good free things.
I mean-
it's like get outside. I don't know.
I touched on this earlier, but like our tax dollars at work in this city is unbelievable. I mean, the free programming, like in every city park, the concerts, the movies, Slam, right? Like the movie nights on Art Hill and the music and the concert and all the parks and the music, like literally there is something to, especially in the summer, there is something to do. The zoo, right? Every night of the week for free in this town. Like I have never felt so good about paying taxes and city tax in my life because it supports everything that's going on in the city. And that also means it's accessible for everybody in the city.
Yeah. That 1% St. Louis city tax, but then also the hotel motel taxes that the Regional Arts Commission comes in and actually funds these, not just the Fox and Muni, the smaller places, the 200 person rooms, the Luminary, all these different art museums and stuff. And it's really special to see that because, like you said, it's more than I thought it was just a sports town. We would only come to St. Louis to go to the Cardinals game. But now, even Ballpark Village, like they're building onto all this. And so it's just cool. And
the new soccer stadium.
I know.
yeah.
Yes,
I know.
I'm
a big soccer fan.
Oh, huge. Women's soccer. Oh, yeah.
We'll be there.
I wouldn't mind if they would have. Don't be surprised if you see Clementine's name somewhere in that stadium. I'm a big fan.
Big fan, and you should be over. And that's going to be a thriving area too. Midtown St. Louis is going to be huge, and we just had people on that are big in Midtown. So it's just like, supporting St. Louis. I love the idea of highlighting the people and the places, and like when you're talking about these restaurants, you're talking about the people. So now when we go to Clementine's, we can think back on this conversation of Brian visiting the restaurant with his mom, and like we can have our own story of that because now Brian's probably going to visit with his daughter, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And there's probably hundreds of Brians, but that's just the one story. There's 100 people that don't message,
Right.
because that takes energy and time to do that. And I always say this in every episode. And I don't know how many followers you have across all socials, but let's say like 50,000 or 100,000. It doesn't seem like that much when you look at these big brands that have 1 million, but 100,000 people would fill.
I wish I had 100,000 followers.
Combined across all of them.
Oh yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
But 100,000 people would fill up Busch Stadium 2 times. So like imagine all those people eating your ice cream at once.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a good way to look at it, and you just need a couple big fans, and kind of like that.
2 big fans.
Do you have a life bucket list? Like a couple things that.
Okay, so I actually just this past weekend, this is so corny, but I actually completed a bucket list item this past weekend.
Let's hear about it.
So I went on a retreat with a bunch of CEOs to Las Vegas, and I have always wanted to see Wayne Newton in concert. I know that's totally corny, my whole life. And living in Southern California, we used to go to Las Vegas all the time.
Yeah.
And no one would ever go with me to see Wayne Newton. And so finally I was in charge of planning this retreat. So our one evening activity was going to see Wayne Newton
We're
in concert.
going.
Yes. And it was super cool because I actually got to meet him afterwards. And I was like
starstruck.
Double
I
check.
was, well, like, and I grew up around celebrities and everything, like, so I'm not starstruck, but it was so cool for me. I was like, when I was a little girl, I used to sit below my grandmother's knees and she'd see you on TV and she'd talk about, and so like I have these memories and like I've always wanted to see him. And the guy's like over 80.
Yeah.
Right. So how many more concerts is he really going to sing?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool. So I checked that off my bucket list that I saw and I met.
Yes.
And I met Wayne Newton. You want to see a picture of me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we want to see
I
a
do.
picture.
I'm so excited. And people are going to be like, who are you again?
No.
Like, why were you excited?
But
I
bucket
was
list could
like,
be anything. Like sometimes like I'm a big list person, like sometimes
You're
it could
a
be,
big list.
I'm a big list guy.
Yeah, you
I
are.
say, and it could be something small or big. And that's fun that you got to meet up with us, with a couple other CEOs. And
Yeah.
That's neat.
Um,
Neat. I say things like neat now. That's my new term.
oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
Holy white teeth.
That's Wayne Newton, folks. And me. I know, Doc. Like, it was, yeah, I know, it was cool. And literally, I was like the youngest person in there at his concert, but I didn't care because I was so cool because it was something I always wanted to do. So
Yes.
there was my bucket list.
That
thing
is
to
so
check.
cool.
So we like to leave it off with something of advice, and we talk about mentorship. So if you're looking at us, 26 years old, or a young woman that wants to be an entrepreneur, because we know how difficult it could be to take a risk, and you took that leap. So what advice would you give to somebody younger, man, boy, female, whatever, just a younger entrepreneur that wants to crack in and be innovative? And what's a little bit of advice you could give to someone like that?
What I would say is be willing to make the sacrifice, because a lot of people think, or they see you and they see how successful you are, right? And they think, oh, it just happened, right? People, when we made Oprah's O list, right? They were like, oh my God, how'd you get on the Oprah? And I'm like, years of hard work and years of sending ice cream, very expensive shipping costs to Oprah's offices, and so like be willing to make the sacrifice, because for every time it cost me $100 to ship some ice cream there, that was $100 that didn't go into my pocket or to do something else. Right. And so be willing to make the sacrifice, because you have to live small to dream big. Right. And so if you're not willing to give up your lattes, and you're not willing to give up the clothes, and you're not willing to give up the sports equipment or the cars or the big tires or whatever that is, right? It's going to be a long road, right? As an entrepreneur, in those early days when, like, I ate because I made ice cream, right? Like I took no paycheck for 3 years. I had no money, right? And so I ate because I had ingredients and I had ice cream. Those are like the lean years that nobody sees, where you're like, I survived on 2-3 hours of sleep a night for years. And I screwed up my back, and I had to have back surgery, right? Because of lifting 50-pound buckets of dairy all day long and making ice cream and working at opening the store from open to close by yourself, just like how like physically hard it is and emotionally hard. And when the world, everyone's telling you no, right? And you still have to say yes, right? And that's like the advice is like, just be prepared to sacrifice and make sure that you want it more than anything. Because if you want it more than anything, there is nothing you can't do. You're just, going to have to be willing to sacrifice and put a lot on the line. And I almost, in a sense, like if you're not sacrificing and you're not going to appreciate it. Right? Like if someone just like, oh, here's a big pile of money, go do this, you're never going to appreciate it or appreciate the people who help you get there, because you're all in it together and you're building something together. It's kind of magical, but like there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into what we do, right? Or at least what I've done. And, I still live in an 800 square foot house. Most of my employees live in much bigger houses than I do, right? But, I live small, dream big. Yeah. I guess that's what I would say. Live small, dream big.
Yeah.
Like that. And falling in love with the process. Like the money comes, but like falling in love with waking up and going to the farm and being one with your business, because you have to do every aspect of your business before you can hire people to do it. Why would they want to work at the front if you didn't work at the front? Or
right. Yeah. There's nothing in my business I haven't done.
Yeah.
And even sometimes, you know, we get new kids who come in the summer who've never cleaned a toilet in their life. Like, seriously. And I'm like,
It's different.
and they're
out
like,
here.
you want me to clean a toilet? I'm like, yeah, guess what? I'm the owner. Come on. I'm going to clean it with you.
I'll show you.
And they're like,
And once you do that once, then everybody sees that though. And everybody respects you because of that, because they think that just because you're the owner means you're like balling, making all this money. And like you said, you're putting it.
that's not the case, I assure you.
But you're putting it back into the business to create more jobs and to create a bigger dream, because it's not just St. Louis. It's going to be Chicago, New York City, like all these places that you probably want to be at, and that you should be at, you deserve to be at, because the product's good, you know?
Yeah. And it's understanding that the more you invest in your business and your people, like I made the decision early on to pay my people more, right? To have amazing benefits, to have a better customer experience, to have a higher cost of goods on my ingredients, right? I could make a really cheap ice cream and fill it with a lot of air, but that's not what I want to do. I think you deserve better, right? Than to do that. And so I kind of made this decision early on that I was going to invest my money into my people, my places, my product, those things first, and the rest will and should come later. And it's just always like been with me. You know, I built my business only out of the profits of my business, right? And what I put into Clementine's, like I have no investors, and up until this year, I've had no debt. So everything that I've done out of the profits of the business. And so if you're growing your business with your profits, you're not putting it in your pocket, right? You're not buying that big house. You're not, you know, you're putting it right back in and right back in and right back in. So you got to be willing to like say, okay, I'm going to do this.
I'm going all in.
All in.
Inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh, you are so great. This is such a
thank
great
you.
cup full.
Yeah, cup full. And we get filled up by talking to people like you. And there's so many great entrepreneurs. And I just love, like you said, the sacrifice, the journey. And then everybody gets to reap that benefits, and we all get to enjoy great ice cream because of it.
My bowl's gonna be full tonight.
Oh my
with
gosh!
ice cream.
Can we're going on our honeymoon? Like we're going on our honeymoon
We're
pretty
going
soon.
home right after. I'll put that in the freezer.
Well, when this comes out, we're
It
leaving.
will be the
for our
day we
honeymoon.
leave. For
Yeah, June 8th. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the STL Bucket List Show. This was one of the more inspiring episodes we've had on. And if you guys want to learn more about her story, and if you guys want to just go support great ice cream, there's 6 locations and more to come, and just so much great work happening in St. Louis. So we're tuning out. We'll see you guys next week. And I just want to thank Half Coast Studios for letting us use the studio and producing such a high quality product to go perfectly with another high quality product. So
yes,
see you guys next Wednesday.
You're great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.